This movie starts with the death. Sara and her father, Don, are taking Mary to hospital. She can't breathe. They arrive and Don tells Sara not to tell anyone about this, and a few moments later, Mary dies. We cut to a few years earlier. Sara, her sister, and Don are eating together. Sara wants to go to a party, but Don refuses and gets really aggressive. In the middle of the night, Sara sneaks out with her boyfriend Chris to go to the party, but Don and the mother of the family, they notice her absence. Sara is having the time of her life with Chris, and even Chris wrote a song for Sara. He sings it and tells her that he loves her, and Sara says it back to him. The party's over and Sara goes back home, and her parents are waiting for her. They get into a huge fight and Sara tells them that as soon as she turned 18, she will leave them forever. Sara has already planned all her life with Chris after her 18th birthday, and when she tells her plans to her mother and sister Amy, Don was eavesdropping on her. Don goes to the basement and we see there is a secret room. Sara will graduate in 3 months and Don is spending more and more time in the basement. One day when the mother leaves the house, Don calls out for Sara to go and help him with something, but he takes her to the secret room and locks it up. She starts to scream, but the room is fully acoustic and no one hears her. After a few hours, Don opens the door and talks to Sara and tells her that all of this is because she didn't listen to him and she needed to be dealt with, and from now on she has to listen to whatever he says. Then he undresses Sara, his own daughter, and takes advantage of her. When the police comes to investigate Sara's absence, Amy and the mother say that it's not possible that Sara would leave without saying a word, and there must be something wrong. On Sara's birthday, Chris comes in and Don tells him that Sara ran off with her childhood friend, and Chris breaks apart. Don takes a cake and a red dress to the basement and gives them to Sara. They argue again and again. Don rapes her. A year passes like this and Sara gets pregnant, and when her water breaks, her first child, Mary, is born. 4 years later, Sara gives birth to her second child, a boy, Michael. Don is living a double life in his house, upstairs and downstairs. Amy and her mother are still wondering about what happened to Sara and they want to keep on searching for her, but Don is against this idea and wants them to move on. Don takes a TV to the basement for his new children and tells them bedtime stories every night. Chris returns after all these years and talks to Amy, and when Chris tells her about the childhood friend that Don told him, they both realize that Don might be lying to all of them and probably he has killed Sara. The mother also sides with Amy and Don leaves the house when they get into a huge fight, but he forgets the keys. Amy goes to search the basement, but Don gets back and stops her, and Amy says that he is responsible for whatever happened to Sara. Sara gives birth to her third child and tells Don to take the new baby upstairs because there is no room for another child. She tells Don to leave the child at the doorstep and bring it in. Don leaves the baby with a note at the doorstep and the mother finds it. The mother recognizes Sara's handwriting and she is sure that this is Sara's child. There is another note that Sara wrote for help, but Don finds it before the mother does. Years pass and the kids are growing up and Sara has been imprisoned in the basement for 14 years. One day, Mary wears makeup and Don approaches her, but Sara stops him. He doesn't want her daughter to have the same fate as she had. Don gets mad and turns off the ventilation of the basement. Sara and Mary talk and Sara finds out that Mary does not know that Don is both her father and grandfather. Upstairs, Sara's child is grown up and his name is Thomas. Thomas sees his grandmother crying in Sara's room and talks to her, and when he wants to talk to her, the mother tells her everything about Sara. One rainy night, Sara finds a leak in the basement because water is coming in. She tries to dig a bigger hole and send signal with a flashlight. She succeeds and someone sees it, but the neighbor tells about the flashlight to Don. Don goes to the basement and starts hitting Sara, and he beats her up to a point that her child dies inside her. Sara takes out the baby and gives the body to Don, and he buries it in the yard. Mary and Michael are teens now and wonder when they can go outside. But Dawn says that the reason that they can't go outside is because of their mother. So they get upset with Sara and they start to argue with her, and then she faints. But when she wakes up, they apologize. Sara now knows that her children are old enough for her to tell them the truth. She tells them everything and says that the bedtime story about the kidnapped and imprisoned princess was all about herself. She tells them that Dawn is both their father and grandfather, and here Mary has a panic attack and Sara tries to calm her down. It's getting harder and harder for Dawn to control the basement, and he has to spend more and more time, and after a while he gets fired from his job. His wife and Amy are putting a lot of pressure on him as well, so he decides to get rid of Sara, Michael and Mary in the basement. He decides to kill them with gas, so he starts his car engine and passes a pipe to the basement, but Thomas comes and he lets go of his plan. But Mary is already affected and she can't breathe, and here we see what was the movie's beginning was all about. Sara is extremely worried about Mary, but she comes back to life with CPR and shock. When a nurse asks Sara to fill the paper, she makes Ron to leave the room and get another form, and while he's gone, Sara sees a police officer and tells her everything. The police officer arrests Dawn, and Sara and her children are now free. At the end, Mary, Michael and Thomas are playing together in the yard and someone comes in. It's Chris, and after 25 years, he still loves Sara. He apologizes to her for not searching for her and believing Dawn, and gives her the birthday gift that he bought for her 25 years earlier, a pink helmet that she loved. She puts it on and they ride together. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join to our channel for more recaps. If you have any suggestions, comment down below and let us know. Thanks for listening to my voice. Bye.